All right. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining our webinar. My name is Cox-Cuzzi, and I am so excited that you're all able to make it to the Kickstart Your Investing Career with crowdfunding. As a programming board member of the Venture Capital and Funding Programming Board with StartOut, I'd like to provide an overview of StartOut before diving into this exciting topic. StartOut is a US-based nonprofit organization founded in 2009 that focuses on supporting the LGBTQ+ entrepreneurs and startup founders. Our mission is to increase the number, diversity, and impact of LGBTQ entrepreneurs and also amplify their stories, ultimately to drive the economic empowerment of the queer community. Over the past 10 years, we have built a community of 17,000 members, and we support 300+ entrepreneurs every year. In essence, StartOut is about networking, entrepreneurship, and community. So if you're a founder, we provide direct individual support through community events, one-on-one mentorship, one-on-one office hours with experts, a 6-month accelerator program, and investor connections. And we wanted to provide our current valued sponsors and really give a special shout out to our community partner who's hosting this event, I Fund Women. If you are interested in collaborating with StartOut, please contact our event organizers or check out the website. We're always looking for more partners and would really love to have as many organizations on board as we can. All right, so a little housekeeping is that we'll be managing the chat today. And so please feel free to introduce yourselves and chat with the fellow attendees. We'd love to see if you have made an investment in crowdfunding before. So feel free to put that into the chat panel so that everybody can sort of get an idea of the audience and who has experience with what. If you have any questions, please feel free to submit them through the Q&A button. And with that, we'll get started. So as I said, my name is Cox-Cuzzi. I've been in crowdfunding for the past 4.5 years. I'm working at my 3rd crowdfunding platform. I initially started with Nextseed, which then got acquired by Republic. And so I worked at Republic for a year plus, and now I'm currently at SMBX. And I've been working on the side with businesses and really making sure that they have the best customer experience when they're onboarding and launching their campaigns through a crowdfunding website. Then now I'm going to go into our panelists and give you a brief intro. So crowdfunding is a finance vehicle that is still unknown to most, especially to everyday folks that aren't entrepreneurs and aren't looking to raise capital for their businesses. On this panel today, we hope to demystify what it takes to make investments in crowdfunding and engage in opportunities outside of traditional savings through the public markets, i.e. stocks and bonds, or 401ks, Roth IRAs, etc. We are here to answer your questions and get you thinking out of your comfort zone on how you can start building wealth for yourself. And really excited to have everybody here that's on the panel, and I'm going to quickly introduce our panelists. We've got Ashley Olsen with I Fund Women. She's a startup coach. She's been an entrepreneur since a very young age and every day helps entrepreneurs going through the I Fund Women program and really just coaching them and mentoring them and making sure that they can amplify their messages moving while they're on the platform and looking to raise capital from their community. We've got Metzer with 360 Venture Collective, and she's known as the mayor, so feel free to ask her any questions. And she has a plethora of experience in Fortune 500 companies and really has been thriving in helping unique populations build wealth in the real estate sector. And she's a general partner at 360 Venture Collective, and they are just making waves in the venture capital space. So we're really excited to have her on this panel. And she also makes a lot of investments in crowdfunding. So she'll be able to provide a unique perspective on being both sides, on an investor side for both institutional and crowdfunding vehicles. And lastly, but not least, we have Jonas Guthler. He is the co-founder of We Are the New Farmers, which is a spirulina company based in Brooklyn. And he is just redefining what it means to have a business that is sustainable and ecologically friendly, and really just trying to spread knowledge as quickly and effectively as he can. He started a magazine where he could really display how to implement solutions. And we're really, really excited to have him on board, as he's raised funding through a crowdfunding campaign himself. And he can really talk about what the perspective is like from a business that's raising on crowdfunding platforms and how they interact with their investors. Okay, so those are our panelists, and we're just going to jump right into our questions. And so the first question is for Ashley. Could you walk us through the 4 types of crowdfunding that is listed on this slide? And feel free to go into, your own definition.
Absolutely. So there's a couple different kinds of crowdfunding. The first is donation-based. This is simply when someone donates to your campaign in exchange for nothing. It's a donation. There's no financial or product-based returns, but you do get a good feeling that you supported someone that you probably care about. I think crowdfunding at this stage is oftentimes relational. And so people are funding and choosing to fund because they care about the person and the business who is fundraising, or perhaps nonprofit as well. Then there is rewards-based. So this is what we do at I Fund Women. We are a rewards-based crowdfunding platform. We do not take any equity when someone funds your business. Instead, when someone funds your business, they get a reward. And so you can choose what rewards you want to sell. You can pre-sell your products, or you can sell your services, or you can get really creative and sell things that your network is interested in. Like if you have a lot of parents in your network, you could get really creative and sell a babysitting service for an evening, even if that's not typically what you offer. So reward strategy can be kind of fun, and we do a lot with it at I Fund Women. Then there is equity-based, right? So this is when somebody funds you, and in exchange, they get a portion of your equity. They get a little bit of control, a little bit of ownership, or perhaps a lot, depending on how much exactly the check is. So there are quite a few equity-based platforms out there. And then debt, which is investment-based funding in exchange for interest-generating payments. So you are going to have to pay it back eventually. So those are the 4 kinds of crowdfunding. Yeah, thank you.
That's great. That's really great. Thank you. I look forward to diving into some of those more with you throughout the panel. And so, Anne, you invest regularly in crowdfunding campaigns. In the past, how have you gotten introduced to these concepts, and what has drawn you to this investment vehicle?
Well, it's a long answer. I'll keep it short. I got introduced to the concept just kind of poking around personally, looking at different websites, for example, Republic is just a fantastic website, and their offerings are deep. You can look at a little bit of everything. You could actually spend hours on it. It was really just self-induced. I'm always looking around for something to invest in and something to learn from as well. So that's how I kind of came across crowdfunding. I really decided to jump in, and I encourage people to look into it because it's a great way to diversify, building wealth, building your assets. I've spent many years in real estate and have helped people build their wealth in that asset class. And I grew up, learning about the stock market and self-taught, I should say. And, most people put money in, you had mentioned Roth IRAs or IRAs, and that's all we knew. And so it's really cool and fascinating that crowdfunding exists. And, but it's twofold, I've been involved on the equity base and donation nonprofit, 2 of the 4 that Ashley mentioned. I've been involved in those 2 sectors or types of crowdfunding. And what's wonderful is with the donation based, it's a feel good contribution and it speaks to the heart. You feel like you're making a difference. You're not investing into a blue chip or large cap company. So that's how I look at the donation nonprofit part of crowdfunding. And the equity base is more around future hopes of future returns. And I make those choices around, I say, I want to learn if it's in healthcare and it's something I don't know about. I'll dig around. I'll talk to other experts in the field and say, what do you think about this? I just did this recently in healthcare, something that looked like it was a win, but I'm not in healthcare. So I did my own due diligence, just like we do with our venture firm, on a different scale, of course. But so as far as building wealth, just to answer that question, is I'm of belief of diversifying. And so that would be, traditional investments. Stock market's been really rough lately. So it's helped crowdfunding, it's helped, I think, venture, and real estate, of course. And so I look at investing as just kind of this big bucket with 5 or 6 verticals in that bucket.
Great. I love that. And Jonas, we know that you're off camera right now because you're having some Wi-Fi issues. So just wanted to let the audience know that. But as a founder, what was your impetus to using crowdfunding as a source of capital?
Yeah, that's a good question. But I think I want to start with saying, like, what was it not? Because I feel like there's often a little bit of a stereotype around crowdfunding, or at least it used to be, that only companies that are not able to raise funding through the traditional ways of venture capital are going for crowdfunding. And from my experience, that is not true anymore, particularly in the last 3-4 years with, the rise in popularity of some of the major platforms, as well as some changes in legislation. Crowdfunding has become a very interesting alternative for a lot of startups. And rather than seeing it as an either or pathway, for us, it was always an and pathways. Like we see that as part of our fundraising strategy, and it just offers an important building block in the way we're approaching our fundraising strategy. There are plenty of examples these days out there of companies that went crowdfunding and right after had excellent financing rounds with venture capitalists or other investors. So kind of debunking this myth that maybe someone may still have in their head that crowdfunding is only for the companies that can't get money otherwise. For us, there were multiple reasons why we decided to go for crowdfunding. We did an equity crowdfunding round on Republic, and for us, it was always part of our overall fundraising strategy. First of all, we are an urban farm, we're a food company. Community is extremely important to us. Whoever works in food knows that. It's just part of how you think in food. And we wanted to make sure that what we build is anchored in this community. I think there are a lot of food companies that raise money through venture capitalists only, and then all the innovation goes back into the same big buckets where it was coming from. But what we're working on is, at We Are the New Farmers is a new food system, and that needs new inputs from all sides. So the community aspect was certainly something that was very in line with the vision of the company and what we're building here. And then the second part of it is the marketing side of things. We're a D2C company. We have a broad customer base. A crowdfunding campaign is always also a marketing campaign for your company. You recruit lots of new customers for your company. Everyone that sees about your campaign hopefully talks about that campaign. I hope that every single one of our investors had at least one conversation over dinner that they just invested into an urban algae farm in Brooklyn. If that's not a conversation starter, I don't know what is. So I really hope that we could use kind of this spreading of our story through all these multipliers that heard about our campaign and invested in our campaign. And then lastly, also then helping us out on our journey. We have now hundreds of new people that are quite literally invested in our company and want us to succeed. So whenever we need help, whether that is in product development or in any other part, we have a huge group, an army of people that are very interested in us succeeding. So for us, it was a very strategic decision, but also based on like who we are as a company and what our goals are.
That's an excellent answer. And actually that leads me to a question to Ashley. And this is something that we discussed offline a little bit, but can you tell us more about the community aspect that Jonas touched on? And I know that iFund Women has an incredible community that is very engaged with the businesses and the staff. And so I wanted to, can you tell us a little bit more about that and how investors can really play a role in the success of a business?
Yeah, absolutely. So at iFund Women, we take a really holistic approach to fundraising. We know that women entrepreneurs obviously need funding, but they also need a lot of other things like community and support. So at iFund Women, we actually have a community of women entrepreneurs, two communities actually. We have a general Slack community that anyone can join, and I'll go ahead and I'll put that information in the chat afterwards. And then we also have an iFund Women of Color community with member meetups and office hours and really opportunities to invest in one another and be invested in. And then in addition to, you know, the community aspects, we also offer a lot of different kinds of coaching. We have workshops for free every single week on everything from how to crowdfund and the strategy of crowdfunding to, you know, sales strategy and how to build a tech product, because there's lots of different aspects of business that you might need support on. And then we also offer private coaching as well if women entrepreneurs need a little bit more. So yeah, I mean, you're spot on. It really does require a lot more than just funding. And I'll go ahead and I'll put the iFund Women of Color and Slack community information in the chat in just a sec.
That's great. That's great. And how have you seen investors show up for some businesses raising on iFund Women? Do you happen to have any examples? Like,
yeah. So it's kind of interesting. At iFund Women, it's very much friends and family and network that are like existing network that are supporting. We do have a couple investors, you know, that are going to the sites and contributing, but largely about 85% of the funds that folks get on iFund Women comes from friends and family, which again makes sense because it is rewards based, so they're not getting equity, and investors are primarily interested in equity. So yeah, I'd say it's a lot of friends and family, and then of course, you know, about 15% could be from investors, strangers, etc. But with rewards based crowdfunding, I think majority is folks that you know in your network.
That's great. And what are some of the characteristics that you look for in businesses when investing through a crowdfunding platform?
Sure. I wanted to, Ashley, I really, I'm impressed at what you have built. You've built an incredible community.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, I'm not the CEO, but I am a startup coach and I have been contributing for quite a while now. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. We'll give you the CEO title. I consider about 6 elements for evaluating or choosing what to invest in. And number one, most importantly, I think is the team. Obviously, we have access to so much now with the internet, and we can dig pretty deep on founders. We can find out, if they're repeat founders, what have they done in the past, and that's really gives you a pretty good snapshot of who you're dealing with, who you're working with, who you're investing with. So the team, I would say, is number one. Secondly, what are they building? Is it a creative project? What's the competition? Is there, are they the only ones doing it? Something recently I invested in, I've been following very closely. They do such an incredible job of updating me, and I don't have to seek it out. It's in my email box. So communication is critical, because, as I think Ashley, you had mentioned, or maybe Jonas, of, I'm going to go tell 10 people, so that's the beauty of taking care of the people that take care of you, is how I look at it. So I will go tell others. Also, who's your defined customer? Do you have a defined customer? Is it unique in the marketplace? Going back to marketing, what are they doing for marketing? What are they doing for advertising? What are they doing online? Do they have a good video? As simple as that. So I just watched a video yesterday, and I got goosebumps from it, and it made me smile, and it was so well done, around a service, kind of a service industry, if you will. And so I went and researched more just from that video. I didn't really even know the business, but I saw the video and I clicked on it, and I was like, good for you. That was, it got a reaction in me. Yeah. And just, again, going back to communication and how they communicate early on.
Great. And to dive into that a little bit more, since I have experience in crowdfunding too, how do you take a look at the financials and other items disclosed from the businesses? Is that something that you go through as well?
Well, and I'm speaking for myself, not for our firm, just my personal experience. Sometimes you get limited access. It just depends on what's offered to you. But I will take as much as I can get, because that will be, indicative of, what's the deck look like, similar to what we do with our venture firm. And so really, the more information, I go back to communication, the more information you have available for potential investors. I think it makes you appear very transparent. Mm-hmm. And I think that adds a layer of trust.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent. Okay, great. So Ashley, one thing that I did want to talk about, and then Jonas, you'll have the same question just from a business perspective, is what I would love to hear your thoughts on who fits as an investor for crowdfunding. You made the distinction between, rewards-based and investment. So, would love to kind of hear maybe what people are looking for in donations, like supporting their people that they love, and then also how that might differ from when you're looking at an investment on a crowdfunding platform.
Yeah, definitely. So I think when it comes to, someone that you're close with, someone that you want to support, I think a lot of times you will feel a sense of obligation to give to them. The real question is how much. And this is where a good reward comes into play. So I personally have contributed typically I'll contribute, $20, $25 to support my friends, show them that I'm being supportive. But occasionally I've seen a really phenomenal reward, like a photo shoot, for example, or something very high value that I'll pay, $250 for, or a much higher amount. So I think that kind of answers the rewards-based profile. Obviously, for more donation-based, you would be investing in it because you're moved, kind of like Anne was saying, emotionally, and you feel really compelled to support and you want to see impact. Whereas I think with more equity investments, generally, to my understanding, investors are going to invest in you if they can get a 10x return, right? So they will invest in you if they think that you're going to be super lucrative and profitable and scalable. And that's why not all businesses are actually a good fit for equity-based crowdfunding. I work with quite a few smaller businesses, like therapy businesses, for example, that aren't looking to scale. They're just looking to provide therapy in their county or something along those lines. So lots of different investor approaches for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jonas, same question for you. So who do you think best fits as a business looking to raise on a crowdfunding platform? And I know that you have experience with raising equity on Republic, so if that's what you feel comfortable speaking to, that's okay.
Yeah, I think I focus on the equity side, but there's some things that I think are very translatable to all the other things, to all the other types of crowdfunding. First, though, something that I found quite remarkable and what Anne just said is that, and I'm sure she does that too, she just didn't mention it, is whether or not the company is actually aligned with your values and missions. And that is something that is, I think, in crowdfunding particularly important. And I think that is one of the biggest triggers that you have when it comes to crowdfunding. I'm actually of the opinion that crowdfunding can be even more complicated and more difficult than raising money from venture capitalists, simply because venture capitalists have a very sober and very straightforward approach. You kind of understand what they are looking for in a company. Crowdfunding is adding a layer of emotion on top of that. So, which makes it incredibly exciting because it opens up opportunities and democratizes investments a lot, because suddenly companies that would normally be filtered out are still available to get investments, and those that are typically, the underfunded minorities, whether that's the LGBTQ community, women founders, people of color, and any other minority that's typically not getting its fair share of investments, is suddenly getting the same exposure as other companies. That said, what then becomes incredibly important is your storytelling and in which way you can convey your mission and your values and what you care about as a company and what you actually try to accomplish. So if you're a company that's doing something that is not resonating with a larger audience, or maybe very hard to communicate, or maybe very sober, or you need a lot of niche knowledge because you are doing something in fintech that only a very small percentage of people is easy to will be able to understand very quickly, then you're probably not the right fit for crowdfunding. But if you are working on something that touches people's hearts and that people want to see, they want to see the world that you want to build, then I think you are very well positioned for crowdfunding.
That's great. That's great. And I can speak a little bit to debt crowdfunding as well. Debt crowdfunding is a passive income vehicle where you're looking more at small businesses that are raising debt. So investors aren't actually getting any equity from the businesses. They are just investing in them and expecting a return back from their investment. So for example, a lot of platforms that offer debt, they will, if you see an interest rate that goes to the investors versus to the crowdfunding platform. So for example, SMBX might offer like 6%, 7% investment rate, and that goes directly to the investor. And that is how it's an investment, get paid monthly typically, but terms can be different for each deal. And so that's why, debt and equity crowdfunding really complement each other, just like stocks and bonds. So you can kind of think of it as, a mirror of that, just in private markets. And just keep in mind with debt, you do need to be a revenue-based business to a revenue generating based business to be able to make monthly payments. Whereas on equity, a lot of times they're not necessarily generating revenue at the time that they're raising money. It is their subsequent fundraisers after they raise money through a crowdfunding platform that will provide the interest and the return there. So that's like a little tidbit on debt there. And let's see, okay. Excuse me. All righty. So Jonas, I do want to ask you another question, and just following up on your experience in crowdfunding is, you mentioned some of the advantages of crowdfunding, and we don't want to, be negative, but what have been some of the challenges that you found with crowdfunding? And is there anything that you wish you knew prior to it, or that might be, or information that might be more readily available for potential businesses looking to crowdfund?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the things that we certainly underestimated, and I think a lot of people underestimate that, is the amount of time that goes into a crowdfunding campaign to actually run it successfully. You need to treat this as an ongoing marketing campaign that requires full attention of a lot of people if you want to run it successfully. You need to continue to invest in it to make it successful. You need to continue to invest time into it. So that is definitely something that you need to be aware of in the beginning. I think a second thing that we were also not so clear on when we started out was the true cost of actually running a crowdfunding campaign. I think it's easy to get sucked in to a crowdfunding campaign with interesting offers from some of those campaigns, but the amount of work and the amount of spending that you need to do, or even afterwards in terms of reporting that's required to the SEC and so on, is not something that's often spoken about beforehand, because obviously they want to get you onto the platforms as quickly as possible. So be sure to ask the right questions around the actual cost of it, in terms of legal costs, in terms of getting the consultants that you need, in terms of the share that the platform is actually taking in the end, so that would be my advice.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. And just wanted to note that we do know that there was an error with the Eventbrite, and it said that the event started at 4:30 Pacific time, at 6:30 Central time, 7:30 Eastern time, but this actually started a half an hour prior. So we will make sure that all the attendees that will receive access to a recording of this video, so then you can see the panel from the beginning. And we really, really appreciate everybody joining us, whether or not it was a half an hour ago or whether it's just now. Even if you've just joined, please send questions through the Q&A function in Zoom. We would really love to hear from you, and don't mind revisiting any information that you may have missed previously, because crowdfunding is so new that yeah, Rick, don't worry, you're not late. But crowdfunding is so new, so we're happy to revisit any information and continue to repeat anything that you might not have understand or you may have missed from the error in the Eventbrite. So excuse me, Emma Holland, she wrote a note in the chat as well. So we just wanted to make sure that we address that. And so to keep going through some of the questions that I have, one of the final questions that I do want to ask to the group, and we can just sort of go through whoever feels moved to speak first, is what is one final piece of advice that you would give to a new to crowdfunding investor or someone that's looking into diversifying their portfolio, and how could they get started? What things should they look at first? Because crowdfunding can be overwhelming when you're looking at everything all at once. So kind of like, what are those first steps that a potential investor should go through? And do you want to go first? You're on mute.
Why I thought it was loud in my background, it's not, but I thought just in case. What came to mind for me is, anytime you're new at something, you want to take the time to educate yourself. And again, going back to what I spoke about a little bit earlier of do your own due diligence, do a lot of reading, read about a lot of deals. They say with going back to stock investing, buy what you know. So you can apply that to crowdfunding. I personally mentioned earlier, I like to learn new things. So I may look into something I don't know anything about and then talk to someone that knows more about it than I do. But I suggest for those that are just stepping into the ring is to read and eventually you'll understand it. You'll understand what you're looking for. Again, reading the deck and any data you can get your hands on. And sometimes it's just jumping in. It's just put the toe in and,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely second what Anne shared about data. Anything that you see when it comes to traction is really encouraging, whether that's, Instagram audience or number of sales or whatever you can do to really ensure that there is traction is going to be really helpful. And I think in order to get started, at least with rewards-based and donation-based, there's so many incredible platforms. On I Fund Women, we actually have lots of different categories. So you can fund kinds of founders that are really compelling to you personally. We have a fund Black-owned campaigns, a fund queer-owned campaigns. And so there's lots of different opportunities to kind of, like Jonas was saying earlier, align your values with the kinds of campaigns and businesses that really matter the most to you. And, in I Fund Women, you can also browse by, lifestyle or tech or, different kinds of categories. So that way, again, like Anne said, you can really stick with what you know. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I can add from a non-investor perspective to how to invest in companies is, I think, to consider that you may have more value to add to a company than just your investment. I think every founder is happy to just get your money. There's no question about that. But think about ways in which you can support the companies that you have invested in beyond your investment. And that can be as simple as introductions, and when you know someone, or if you're thinking about someone, or if it's a consumer product, to be the every once in a while salesperson, and talk to your local shop to maybe carry the product, or something like that. Or if you have a very specific expertise and you are a lawyer, you're an accountant, you're a marketing expert, to offer an hour here and there as like pro bono additional work that you can give to the company. And maybe the founder says things were good, then that's fine. Maybe they're like, yes, that's exactly what we just needed. You really bring us forward, move us forward here. So think about that as well when you do an investment, and your founders will be very thankful.
I love that, Jonas. And it speaks to something you mentioned when we were chatting offline, is that investing through crowdfunding is such a unique opportunity for everyday investors, because it's just not typically available to the general public. So in case people don't know the history of crowdfunding, is that this is a brand new opportunity for investments where people that can invest as little as $10 into private businesses. And really, that's where a lot of wealth is built. It's not only built in stocks and bonds, it's built in investing in other avenues. And so one thing that Jonas really mentioned is that it is such a unique opportunity for investors that they can get into a deal so early, and have such a great impact on a business only by investing, $100 or even $25, like Ashley said, because if more and more people continue to invest in that business, that $100 then amplifies the fundraising of that one business and amplifies the voice of that business as well. And just like Jonas mentioned, you can be helpful to those businesses more than just monetarily. And I love that you brought that up, Jonas, because it is an excellent way to get involved with startups and really offer up other ways that you can participate and help a business that you're passionate about grow, while also building wealth and expanding your portfolio and minimizing the risk that you have with other investments. That's great. So do we have any more questions, or let's check our...
There was a quick request for a live update of what we went over in the beginning. So maybe if everybody could just briefly reintroduce themselves and their connection to the topic, I think that would be welcomed.
Excellent. Anyone want to go first? Ashley?
Go first. My name is Ashley Olafsen. I'm one of the startup coaches at I Fund Women, which is a rewards-based crowdfunding platform. I coach women entrepreneurs every day, all day, on how to raise as much money as possible and really do my best to demystify the crowdfunding process. And then I'm also an entrepreneur myself, founded a couple different businesses, and most recently crowdfunded for my latest venture. So very excited about that. Happy to be here.
And do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Ann Metzger. I'm a general partner at 360 Venture Collective. We are a venture firm investing in underrepresented founders, women, LGBTQ+, and we are a pre-seed seed venture firm, and we're raising our first fund, and it's extremely exciting. I'm here. Thank you for inviting me, and it's been wonderful, and I've learned a few things. To talk about crowdfunding. I've crowdfunded myself on different campaigns over probably the last couple of years. And one of my probably reasons for being here on this earth is I love to connect people and also help people build wealth. So I think that's why I'm here.
All right, and Jonas.
Yeah, hello. My name is Jonas. I'm one of the 3 co-founders of We Are the New Farmers. We are an indoor farming company that's taking captured carbon, feeds it to microalgae, and creates sustainable food products from that. So we are a spirulina farm, and we recently raised money on the equity crowdfunding platform Republic. So I'm here to represent kind of the founder's perspective on crowdfunding, and specifically on equity crowdfunding.
That's excellent. Well, are there any final thoughts that y'all have, or anything else you want to touch base on that maybe folks missed from the first half hour? Great. Okay. Well, we will wrap up the event a little bit early so you can have some time back. We all know in the days of Zoom, getting some time back so you can actually stand up and move around is really beneficial. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of is Demo Day for StartOut. It's our biggest celebration of the year on June 23rd. We have 8 founders that are going to be pitching for a cash prize, and we can post the Eventbrite to the chat. And yeah, Rick, we're very excited for it. And it's one of our biggest events. And so it's going to be really well attended. You should definitely check it out. We've got another event coming up, and it'll be on the event calendar for StartOut, which is for the VC and funding programming board, and it's going to be on angel investing. And one of our co-chairs, Ben Stokes, he's going to be on that panel. And I think so something that our programming board is really on a mission to do is to provide a series of education on different ways that people can invest and make investments through different vehicles. Crowdfunding is just the beginning. It's a great way, like Anna said, to get your feet wet, to really experience what it's like to get involved with a business. You can be very passively involved where you just make investments, or like Jonas said, you can really step up and provide any sort of features that you might have in your own personal network or in your experience. That's more than just monetary availability. So naturally, that can kind of lead you into angel investing if you reach certain requirements to be able to make investments that are larger in companies that are doing private fundraising rounds that are not necessarily through crowdfunding. So we'd love to have y'all join that. We're going to be putting out more events on the investor education series, so please keep an eye out for those. We're really happy to be able to provide this new perspective to the StartOut community, because we've got tons of entrepreneurs that are always looking for capital, and we want to be able to activate that. If you want a copy of the slides, they'll be recording, but I'm sure that we can send out a copy of them. Oh, sorry, someone asked that question. I thought it was to everybody, but I just answered it. So thank you guys for joining. And Ashley, Jonas, thank you so much for your input. It's just been incredibly vital and informative, and really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.